I have a visionary sense. I can see Jerusalem as an extraordinary place that will lead us into the future. That you will get past the problems. There will be a moment where it's resolved and transformed. And in that transformation, this place will become a place of healing for the rest of the planet.
Personally, Jerusalem for me is a place where I can walk on the street and someone will call me by my mother's maiden name. Just because, you know, they knew her from camp somewhere. And that's a feeling of home.
It is my great honor to welcome the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
We met at an event that I would never go to, and it was an Academy Award event for new members. And I was in the middle of a million things, and my agent at the time said, let's just go to saying blah, blah, blah. And he said, have you met this friend of mine? And Joseph Cedar. And he was looking very Israeli at the time, a little scary. And scary in the sense of deeply intense. And so we met, and I wasn't quite sure, but I'd seen Beaufort, so we talked about Beaufort a little bit, and I admired it greatly. So we talked, and I literally said to him, I said, look, if you want to do something that has to do with the Middle East, you know, I'd be very interested. I want to do something that deals with that and maybe is of help in some way.
Good morning, Bill. Norman Oppenheimer.
What the fuck? You stalking me now?
No, I just need a couple minutes of your time. I know you're busy. Look, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't time sensitive. Let me explain. Give me 1 minute.
No.
A very high official, I can't mention his name right now, maybe an author, to sell his country's tax receivables to a third party. 80 cents on the dollar.
Excuse me, I have to leave. This is unacceptable. It is my job to keep people like you away. Don't you get that?
Yes.
So please, respect my position. Stop. Please. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say.
So I'll tell my partners that we had a good conversation, and we'll see what happens, okay?
You said that when Joseph wanted to meet you about this, and he sent you the script, you really wondered why me? Why, because you have a certain persona.
It wasn't just that. It wasn't even about me as much as if I was casting this. There are dozens of wonderful New York Jewish actors who they wouldn't have to create another universe. It would be inside of them, so deep. And again, it was my filmmaker side, producer side, director side said, I wouldn't cast myself in this.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, no, but you said, Richard.
I mean, if I don't want to like make a list of the wonderful Jewish actors that you're.
This is exactly the
to.
Conversation that happened when we first talked.
Any casting choice it's probably
you clearly had to make a leap. It wasn't obvious what I would do with it. You couldn't look to one of my other films and go, you know, it's like that one or it's like that one or. You know,
it's funny. The one character in your movie that I thought is relevant is Stucky. It's a Jason Alexander character from Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. Do you remember that movie? Is it something from the past?
The leap is mutual, and I think what happens. This really isn't true for the Israeli industry, where I think that the director has more of a call in deciding who's going to be in his movie. Less options, but more authority to say, I want you. And usually the actor is very happy that you're. With this movie, Riçhard was choosing me more than I was choosing Riçhard.
That's not at all true. That's not at all true.
I don't always say only what's true.
No, from my side, look, I mean,
just go with me.
All right.
May I ask what you do for a living?
Sure, I'm a businessman.
Oh, what sort of business?
Consulting, mostly.
Who do you consult?
Well, businesses, organizations, individuals, it varies, you know? Sometimes I consult other consultants.
But do you have a specific area of expertise? Can you explain to me how your business works? If it's not too complicated, I'm curious.
I'm certainly not Norman, but I can't play Norman if I don't have some of Norman in me. I don't have to have a lot, but I have to have enough as an access point that the kind of world of dreams and mystery starts to open up. The creative process starts to happen, and unexpected things come out of that. So when we started, of course, I was asking all those questions. Where does he live? Does he have a girlfriend? Is he gay? Does he get angry? What makes him angry? The questions you would normally ask about a human being and get a picture of them in your head, who the character is in the world. And none of those questions with him are relevant. The fact that they aren't relevant is the relevancy.
Everybody seems to know who you are, but nobody knows anything about you. Even people who say they've known you for years. For instance, nobody knows where you live.
There are some Normans in my life who I don't know where they live. I don't know if they're married, and I'm not sure if they have children or not. Even if I've known them for years, asking them is this like leap of faith into something that may be awkward. So I continue my relationship with some of these Normans in my life, not knowing almost anything about them. And I thought this is true for Norman and his communication with the world. No one knows anything about him because they're afraid of what might be the truth.
Hey, but please, don't tell him you got his address from me, okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I can't be more helpful. It's tough. You're like a drowning man trying to wave at an ocean liner. Joe Wilf is an ocean liner. He doesn't see any of us.
But I'm a good swimmer.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. As long as my head is above water.
Would have been easier for me to find the dark side, honestly. And the manipulative side, the Iago side. And he didn't want to go there. That's probably one of the reasons you wanted me to do it.
I think you saved the film from it being that kind of cliched character.
But I honestly, the voyage of me to find this guy there's no impulse in him to hurt anybody. None. Now, does he lie? Does he cheat? Does he misrepresent? Is he using people? But yeah, and he wants his 7% for sure of everything. But there's nothing in him that wants anyone else to be hurt. He doesn't want to inflict any pain. There's no sense of revenge in him. There's no darkness in that way. And I thought that was, wow, this is a really original character that way.
Yeah. One of the things that go through my mind when I'm on set is that I wish I can do what some of these actors allow themselves to do. And I there wasn't a second behind the camera where I wasn't in wonderment on how courageous it is for you to shed all these things that created your movie persona to become this man who is always on the verge of being ridiculous.
Well, suppose someone says you can't trust them. You would say, well, it's not a matter of trust.
You had Liaor in mind all along, right? When you wrote the movie, I guess?
Liaor is in my mind all the time.
Yeah. In my mind, too. Are we talking about the same thing?
My mind, too. Are we talking about the same
What's
thing?
going on here?
Norman, my friend, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you.
He's wonderful. I mean, what a wonderful actor. Also as a presence. I mean, really terrific. And I remember when we met the first time in New York, it was an immediate connection that we had. He actually, I heard,
and a huge relief for me.
Yeah.
One of the signs of a master filmmaker or artist is knowing when to be completely simple and not draw attention to the artifice at all. And that scene we were just talking about, the dumb show of us, the camera doesn't move. That's a stable shot for quite a long time. I mean, it feels like a couple minutes. It's probably 30 seconds.
It's a minute and a half.
It is a long shot that is completely stable. Looks like it's probably a 35 millimeter lens, something like that. It's a wide enough shot, so it's...
And the shoes are in the foreground.
Shoes are in the foreground. You get a sense of New York. People are moving behind. There's energy there, but it's completely trusting the moment. And no sense that, well, I got to move the camera, or I got to cut to a close-up, or I got... Nothing. That the trusting, the surety, the confidence of knowing that this works. Just leave the camera there and let it happen. Camera's in the right place. It's telling the story. I don't have to pump it up. This is working.
The scene was structured around you gradually entering his intimate space and finally finding a way to grab him, to hold on to him and lead him into the store, which is an irreversible action for both these characters.
What I found, when we talked a lot about this, of what that would be, how do you seal the deal? And it became clear to me that it was about physicality. It was about touching. Now, how do you make it real, kind of the first physical touch? I look, make a connection, I get a little closer, I make him laugh, I touch his arm, just briefly, touch his arm. He relaxes a little bit and laughs. I ended up putting my arm on his shoulder and we were right next to each other. Okay. But it was that physicality was really what started the love story. That was the cute meet.
Yes.
Was totally the dumb show of that physicality.
Till that point, no one is willing to allow Norman to get into, you know, their space. Mm-hmm. And here Norman found someone who left a tiny crack to enter. And he does it. He seizes that crack and goes in, and it's what the whole story is about.
And the decision to do that as a silent... Are you Norman now?
I'm actually on stage. I'm actually on stage right now. Everyone is listening.
The guy
to this.
can't stay away from the character. It's amazing.
I love you. Bye.
That's a total actor, Richard. Yeah. So anyhow, the decision...
My girlfriend, by the way. That's okay.
I didn't know this, but there's a whole like New York handbook or how to shoot films in New York that I, of course, was not aware of.
We didn't control the streets in New York. We didn't have enough money to. And almost all the scenes were real people. And he was on long lenses very far away, shooting me getting crazy, walking down the street and talking to someone. I wasn't getting what I wanted and whatever. And there was one that was about a 2-page thing on the phone. And it was like take 4, I think it was. Finally, I got through this whole thing and it felt really good. And with all the craziness of New York going on, and we finished it, cut. I looked at him and he went, and I started doing a jig in the street. I was so happy, and he started doing a jig in the street. It was a really wonderful moment.
You were in Arthur Taub's house.
Yeah, I took Micha Escher with me. Could I introduce you to him sometime? You know who he is, right? He's in the Israeli parliament. He's young and charismatic. He's sharp, very sharp. I'm helping him out a little bit, showing him the ropes. Help him raise some money.
Well, he's a lucky man to have you on his side.
No, actually, I'm the lucky man. Because this guy, I'm telling you, this guy's a real thing. He is just an incredible human being.
Well, maybe bring him to us as a guest lecturer, if you say he's good.
Next time he's in town, and we should make an evening out of it.
Sounds like a plan, Norman.
Good, good. Done.
I've made a lot of movies, and I've done a lot of plays, so I deal with scripts on different levels of all time, different kinds of people. Incredibly detail-oriented. There was some improvisation, but very little in this movie. And, you know, we had to figure what he looked like. That was a kind of
You did that together.
We went through.
Process.
It's
of
an
what
interesting.
the clothes were, what I looked like physically. The physicality was something that it kind of happened on its own.
There was an image that I had in the beginning of this process. Are you familiar with the gay musical chairs that kids play? Norman is someone who ends up standing, who doesn't have elbows strong enough to find the seat at the right time, or is not aggressive enough to push himself into one of the available seats. But as long as the music is playing, he keeps his head above water.
Every time he's really beat up, he's got to get to the synagogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he's really feeling what we would normally feel, like he's angry, anxious, upset, what those emotions are, when he's off balance,
yes.
when he's out of his Normanness,
yes.
he's lost control, he's got so many plates up in the air and doesn't know what, it's got to get to the synagogue.
There's something really remarkable about the gap between where Norman is when he's having a conversation and the person he's speaking to. Sometimes I get a phone call from Ritchard in a place where if I could only say, guys, Ritchard Gere's on the phone. And sometimes I don't want Ritchard to know where I am.
Yeah.
Or I don't want him to know that that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now I know.
I'm revealing myself more and more as Norman.
I'm going to end this conflict. How? I'm going to say yes to compromise. To everybody. Because the opposite of compromise is not idealism. The opposite of compromise is not integrity. The opposite of compromise is fanaticism and death. Life is compromise. I'm not only believing that, that is who I am. That is why I'm here in this position.
I feel if this conflict that you all have been enduring, your parents have been enduring, your grandparents have been enduring, if this can be solved, then 99% of the problems on the planet will go away. So it's really important. It's up to you now, right? Everyone else messed it up. It's really up to you guys. To make a movie here, as me as a person in the world who's also known for nonviolence and inclusion, to be here and not boycott. I don't think that's true in all cases, but I think I had to look at this specific case and say, yes, one, doing the film is a good thing. Two, coming here and being part of the opening of the film here is a good thing. Meeting as many people as I can, engaging you guys is a good thing. This is all important stuff. For me personally and my own growth, but also just in the interaction of the space that we all cohabit. So.
I'm extremely lucky to have worked with Ritchard, and you know I appreciate what you said about my movies. I think I'm part of an Israeli community that has raised the bar of our industry over the last 15 years or so. And I just feel that bringing you here and introducing you to some of the industry and the students is a result not only of this one or two films that I've made, but just like an environment that allowed me to somehow improve myself from film to film.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Ritchard Gere and Joseph Cedar for an amazing movie. We hope it's going to be successful.